G'day listeners, welcome to Bar Karate, the sailing podcast. My name's Jordan Spencer and it's that time of the week where we get to hang out with some cool sailors. But of course I have to share the microphone duties with my two idiot mates. So let's first off welcome Mr. Brett Perry.
Greetings, exalted one.
No BP. Where's BP? Let's bring in the other guy.
He had a voice that could make a wolverine purr.
Mr. Nick Bias.
My bet, where BP is he's glassed himself into one of the water tanks on the X2. You see those dickhead videos on Facebook where he's like welded someone's head outside a fence or something. He's glassed himself into the water tank.
It's a possibility.
Hang on, I'm just putting the pill ply on. I'll be out.
Oh, dear. Look, we think he's okay. We think he's supposed to turn up. He's been rushing everywhere at the factory, so we're expecting BP to contribute, but we just thought we'd take the piss out of him while we got the chance, so fair enough.
Which is quite different. Oh, Jesus.
Oh.
Yeah. Stand by. I just kicked a few things under my table, and it seems I've got more than 2 bottles of beer under my table. Anyway.
All right.
But carry on.
Shall we just get straight into it?
We shall.
Yeah, okay. So last week we had a ton of fun talking to an old friend of ours, Matt Sheahan, and one of the great joys of Matt is you can sit there for hours and hours and hours and converse about all sorts of things, and we never finished where we got our conversation. So we thought, let's bring him back in for part 2. Matt, welcome back, bud.
Thank you very much indeed. It's a pleasure. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Actually, one thing I have to say, Nick, you saying about being glassed into the boat, you laugh about that. That I had a flashback as you said that. It reminded me of doing exactly that. A long time ago, 1980 something or other in Norway, we were building a half tonner, and it was a project, Humphrey's project, and we were building this thing. We had a really, really tight deadline to build this thing on, and we were working through the night, around the clock, building this thing. And we were so tired. We were laminating the 2 halves together, split them all together, laminated it together. And I remember waking up to discover that my jeans had I'd fallen asleep and my jeans had gone. It was epoxy, and I think my jeans were welded into we had to cut each other out. It was ridiculous. But trying to get hold of the scissors was quite difficult because we were both stuck in the boat. So it did actually happen. It's a true story.
Well, it's either cut yourself out or walk home with it hanging out. So
you don't do that when it's -12 outside. I'll tell you. It was just north of Oslo and it was December. You don't go outside without your trousers on.
Oh, dear.
Fair enough.
That's the good thing about you, Matt. Every time we mention some sort of random topic, we've got a story for that one. So it's quite good.
Well, I was waiting given your mast building experience, that you'd found yourself stuck in a mast at some point in time.
Well, no, not as such. but a colleague of mine at Yachting World, who's the deputy editor, will have to remain anonymous because it wouldn't be fair to mention David Glenn's name in a podcast. But he was doing a thing on Maltese Falcon. We all know.
Yeah.
And he was with the owner, sadly the deceased owner nowadays, and he'd written something. I'm just trying to remember now. The owner had written a novel, hadn't he? He'd written a book, and David hadn't been very complimentary about this book, and he was showing around the boat, and then it got to the mast, and they went, and you could get into the mast because the mast was huge on Maltese Falcon, and they went into the mast, and apparently that David had to go in first, and then the owner went in behind, and all David heard was a click click as the door then shut behind him. Right now, about that review. Funny enough, they got on really well after that.
Believe it or not.
Yeah. Love it.
The safe. Whilst we're on mast, it reminds me of a story of one Jan Decker, who's quite a infamous chap within all sorts of things yacht racing. And in the race competing on Club Med, he'd snuck on a hamon, a Spanish hamon, and stored it inside the rig of Club Med. So whenever he we had a bit of hunger on, he'd just go for a bit of a rig check, slice off a little ham on while he was there. And he was all good.
Unbelievable.
Apparently, Dolts found out, didn't like it that much.
They would have kept it low down. Weight would have been low.
Yeah, correct.
He's a professional after all.
That's
Yeah,
right.
exactly. He's in the middle of the boat, low down. What's not to like about that?
Right. Now, obviously been involved in the sport for a long time, as we discussed last week. The question I have that I want to sort of spark this whole discussion from is you've seen a lot of changes. What do you think the best changes that have been in our sport, and what do you wish hadn't gone away?
That's an interesting one. Well, crikey, there's all kinds of things I think that have happened that have really benefited the sport. But I suppose overall, what I really, what I like most about what's happened over the last 20 or crikey, even 30 years, is how performance has become available to everybody. I remember being very much struck. Basically asymmetric kites and poles, better materials, making lighter boats, making them much more nimble and quick, and they're easier to sail. And so anybody who has sailed an asymmetric dinghy, for example, and who remembers the days of symmetric kites and poles and twin pole jibing and all kinds of weird things and the complication at the jibe mark, will appreciate just how easy it is to sail a high-performance boat downwind really quickly. And jibing is really the least of your worries, isn't it? I mean, it's pretty easy nowadays. And I was telling someone this the other day that for me, it was a bit of an epiphany, actually. I remember going to the Dusseldorf boat show, the world's biggest boat show. And it was years ago now. And there was in their big, one of the halls is dedicated to dinghies. And it's fascinating. And I still love going in there. And they had a 505, which is one of my favourite boats. I used to race a 50, and they're just, as we know, gorgeous, timeless boats.
Here we go. You two blokes can talk for the rest of the bloody show.
So a 50, I'm still extremely fond of 50s and the rest of it. Loved sailing the one we had, blah, blah, blah. And it was sitting alongside a 49er. And I looked at the 50 first of all and was struck by just how complex the boat is. And it's just a string fest now. And it's an obsession. And anyway, so it's a string fest, hugely complicated. And even if someone was stupid enough to give me one, I wouldn't know what to do with it. I wouldn't have a clue. I recognise the main sheet and the jib sheet and the kite and a few other things. But how on earth I can't even keep my 400 tuned the right way, let alone something like that. But anyway, you look at that, and it was I can't remember how much it was, but let's say it was they're 35 grand sterling or something like that. They're probably a lot more than that now, but a lot of money. Alongside it was a 49er. With about 5 pieces of string on it, 2 trapezes, really simple, cost half as much and went twice as quick and goes twice as quick. And you look at those two things and think, see, that's progress, isn't it? Progress isn't all about making things complex and making it elitist and difficult to get to. It is, to me, out of the two things, much as I love the 505, what I love about the 49er, apart from the fact that I've never been able to sail one, is that it's just so cool. I mean, that's progress. That's high performance. It's a relatively easy boat in terms of learning the basic techniques. It's a relatively easy boat to learn to sail, to get your head around. I know it's very difficult to race at a high level, but a simple boat doesn't have to be expensive, and it moves the game on, and it opens it up to an awful lot more people. And sadly, much as I love the 50, that's not something that you can say about that boat. And you can say that about all kinds of other dinghy classes as well. I mean, in the UK, we've got plenty of them to choose from. But I suppose, going back to your question, what do I like about it? I love the fact, I suppose, that things like particularly asymmetric dinghies, I can put, we go back to, I was talking about sailing my daughter last week when we were chatting, could put her in the front of the boat and we can go and race in a competitive field, maybe not particularly well, but it takes 15 minutes to teach someone how to sail the 400 or the 200 or anything with a simple asymmetric kite. 15 minutes, that's how we're going to do it. And this is what you need to do in a jibe, and bang, you're on the race course and out you go. And the boat's going really quickly. You haven't made any compromises in terms of performance. Far from it. It actually stepped up. I think that's really cool. And we've seen that happen across the sport in so many areas of the sport. And that's one of the coolest things about where sailing's going. What was the other part of the question?
What do you miss? What do you wish hadn't gone?
What do I miss? Drinking. Well, I'll tell you what I miss. And that is, for all the really cool things that happened in the sport and the way it's sort of exploded and blah, 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 is unfortunately it's been a victim of its own success in that the sport has polarized, and to the point that when I was a lad, but back in the 70s here in the Solent, which is still the hotbed of racing, but in the Solent you go out and be racing in the 70s and 80s on the weekends, and we didn't have professional sailors then, or at least they were paid behind the scenes, but there wasn't a pro scene. And so everybody was out there doing the Solent points racing in the IOR days of the half-tonners, quarter-tonners, and blah-de-blah-de-blah. And Cowes Week was the same. It was a massive festival with everybody. The top people were there. Olympic sailors were there. Amateurs were there. We were all mixed in the same bag. And you were up against people who had some serious successes hanging around their necks. Now it's not like that. The pro scene has moved off on the circuit around the world and around the Med. Cowes has polarized, and Cowes is still a fantastic event. It's still a great week, but it's very much a grassroots amateur thing. So the divide between amateur and professional hasn't done the sport a lot of favors. It's helped advance the technology and the kind of boats that we can sail and the things that we can do, not just in racing, but in cruising as well, with sails and manufacturing and kit and deck kit and stuff like that. But it hasn't helped. It split us as a community, I think. And now, I'm very lucky. I get to go and play with the big boys like you guys on fancy boats all over the place. But not many people do in the scene. And that's a shame. That's a great shame. And they don't get to rub shoulders with them. And that's a real pity.
And this might be controversial. That is almost something that's happened in Etchells. A boat 10 years ago or 20 years ago, you could win the world titles in a boat that was worth 7, 8, 10 grand. These days, to be in the top 10, that money is that's the cost of your regatta. Which is, it's not a bad thing. It's a bad thing that those 80 boats at that level aren't there anymore, and you've got this step. But you're right, it's caused a divide, and that comment's not meant to be controversial, but it's just the way that it has gone. And I use Etchells because it is a bit of an example, but there are a lot of other classes that's happened to as well, and it's probably scared a lot of owners away as well.
Definitely.
What I thought you were going to answer, Matt, I thought the best thing that would come into sailing, I thought you were going to say was foiling, is what I was thinking you might say. And then what we're missing the most is the blooper, the loss of the blooper.
Well, it seems like I've come in at a good time. I heard there's a party to crash, so I thought I'd crash it, and the blooper is a perfect time for it.
Yeah, that's
well, we were just mentioning actually, BP, that you were actually setting up the blooper for the X2. Believe it or not,
that is what I was doing. That is what I was doing. Sorry, Matt, I didn't mean to be late. But factories and fiberglass, that's how it goes.
We explained what had happened.
Oh, good. I'm glad. So on with the show. Onwards and upwards.
Yeah, so I guess into that point, with the foiling, because we were talking before the show around the youth worlds, and one of the interesting, we had a young fella by the name of Hugo Ralph on the show a few weeks ago, and he's Queensland Youth Sailor of the Year. He's 15. And one of the questions we asked, have you ever seen sailing when people haven't been able to foil? And he'd never not known foiling as part of our sport. So that's sort of been an interesting thing for us. And with the discussion from Paul Kayard that came out this week around, Bicey, you explained it. You were saying it before in our conversation. Just I don't want to.
Yeah, but basically it was a bit of an overview of Paul's role within the US sailing in the the Olympic team and his foresight and what needs to be done to basically have them come away with some medals at the next Olympics. And one of the comments was, well, we're not going to produce Olympic stars with our current college setup, and that is in the FJs and the Club 420s. We need to think more progressive. Like, that was fine 20, 30, 40 years ago, but it's not 20, 30, 40 years ago. We're in a sport which has taken some enormous jumps, enormous leaps, especially in the last couple of years. And if you want to be at the forefront, you need to be taking those leaps also. So as far as, I mean, Paul Kayard's position and his what he's trying to achieve, that's a whole nother story. But I think he, as far as setting some ground rules on what he wants to try and achieve, it's a pretty good start.
Yeah, I think it is. And I think, I mean, you know, to weave that into the sort of the foiling question, yeah, I mean, foiling is fascinating. I mean, I've always been fascinated with foiling right from way back. And it's sort of come of age, isn't it? And it's now all over the place. But it's interesting that there is dare I say it, the older sort of generations generally, those that have sort of come through displacement sailing are still struggling. Some of them are struggling to get their heads around whether this is sailing or not. And I see it all over the Planet Sail websites and over the comments left on the YouTube channel that people say, oh, it's not sailing, foiling's not sailing. I've heard the discussion around the kite foiling and the rest of it's just not sailing. Well, I think you're just wrong. I'm sorry, I'll be blunt about it. You're wrong. It is about sailing. It's a different type of sailing. And you try telling the number of kids that are now unbelievably good at it, that this isn't sailing, and they just laugh at you because you're wrong. Of course it's sailing. It's just rather different. And it's very exciting. And one of the things that I found just recently, actually, because we just had the Sailing Youth World Championships had just taken place in Oman just before Christmas. And I was just editing some features about it last week. It's actually in the latest show, Plug. But I was really struck by just how good they are, but apart from that, the kite foiling really blew me away. And I've seen them kite foil. We did quite a lot of the World Championships events years ago. We're filming those, and I was amazed by that. And it's just gone from strength to strength. These kids are incredible. The way that they sail these boats, these boards and foils around the course. I mean, just one of the things that amazed me. If you've not seen it, I urge you to go and have a look at it, because you watch them go downwind. It's hard enough to do anything on a foiling board, I would imagine, but they're going downhill and jibing. And when they jibe, they just seem to lift the kite up above them, and then they walk to the front of the board, which is already half a metre above the water, doing about 25 knots. And they just sort of stand on the bow and just rotate the kite around, and then off they go in another direction, as if it's the most natural thing in the world. It's incredible to watch. And these are, let's face it, these are kids. These are mid-teenagers. The other thing that struck me was that, having looked at this, there was one of the interviews that we ran in this piece was with a chap called Sam Ross, who's a bit of a legend in his own right anyway. And I think he's got a very long, complicated title, but it's Pathway Development Coach something or other. And he is very well connected and helps sort of junior sailors get into sort of foiling on the Olympic pathway. And he was talking about the new equipment for the next Olympics 2024, the Paris Games. And two things struck me in particular about what he said. One of them was he was talking about the IQ windsurfer foil. And I went and had a look at this. This is the new equipment for those like me who are struggling to catch up with what's current for the next games. And it is essentially a modern fat windsurfer. But you can stick a foil in it. And but they have a junior one that I think kids as young as 12 are screaming around on these windsurfers on foils at 20 knots upwind and God knows what downwind. And it's the most natural thing in the world to them. And it's amazing to watch. I mean, not only is the performance of the windsurfer just about to discover a complete renaissance on the rate, and maybe this is what will make a windsurfer a good course racing thing, which is something that windsurfers have never really been outside of the Olympic movement. But but that's another debate. But that was really interesting, fascinating to look at. And so if anybody thinks that, foiling's not on its way, just look over your shoulder. There's a whole generation of kids for whom, as you said, Jordan, they haven't seen anything other than a foiler generally. And they're really, really good at it. They're taking it in their stride and they're enjoying it. It's great fun. It's very exciting. But there's another point about it, and that is just imagine what these teenagers are going to be like 10 years down the line when they start to get further into our sport and they start influencing the sport. Not just the way, they're not just good at handling it. They'll be part of the generation that makes the changes, that makes boats, makes the next generation of foiling boats. So I'm really excited to see what's going to happen. It's going to be fascinating.
I was just going to say, in 10 years' time, as you say, they're going to be probably whinging like us that things are changing too quickly and it's not like it used to be.
Yeah, exactly. But the other thing that Sam Ross said in his interview was, and I do need to check this out to make sure it is technically right, but if it's not technically exactly right, he's pretty much there. He basically said that more than half in the next games, more than half of the classes will be foiling. I'm not sure if that's actually technically right, but it's pretty close to half, that's for sure, because you're talking about the kite foils, you're talking about the IQ windsurfer foils, and the NACRAs. Mm-hmm. So you've got 3 already in there, and also 2 classes. So it's coming. So the message is, anybody who thinks, foiling, no, it's a passing phase. If I stick my head in the sand long enough, it'll go through. You're kidding yourself. It's not. It's here to stay. And good on it. And good for them as well. Good for the kids. I just wish I could do it.
I was
maybe one of them will teach me.
I was lucky enough to get out on the water and do some sort of viewing with the guys in Australia. And one of the most exciting parts of the racing is the starts on the IQ foilers. If no one has watched a start of an IQ foiling race, get on that. That is absolutely brutal. And you want to know sailing? The timing and, these things.
Time on distance.
Oh, yeah. But you're doing 22 knots, and you've got no room to move. It's incredible.
Mm. Yeah.
I'm trying to remember doing a lot of the schools teams racing stuff in the puff and pacer, right?
Oh,
and literally a lot of our time on distance training was walking. Because it was about the same speed. So I always knew when I was 6 seconds away from the pin end, for example, because because you're walking every day and you're practicing, that tree's 6 seconds, that pin, blah, 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 all that sort of stuff. How does it translate to falling doing 20 knots?
I don't get it. But you've got to if you get an opportunity, watch a start of a big fleet IQ falling race. It is phenomenal.
Yeah. No, I'm going to have a look at that now. But no, your answer, Nick, is, well, everybody's got electric scooters now, haven't they? So that's how you do it.
Yeah, there you go.
I love it.
Just technology. It's just wonderful, isn't it? Hey?
Well, now that BP's here and we've got this foiling discussion. One of the, we got to spend a lot of time with you on the ocean race. We've got the IMOCA race. We've got a lot of stuff happening on the ocean world at the moment, where foiling is coming into that as part of it. But we're also seeing a lot happening. We've seen the ocean race reinvigorate its communications in the last couple of weeks. But we've also heard that Team New Zealand, the New Zealand team, is now out of the ocean race. Have you got any love for the ocean race? Is it a passion of yours? Do you see foils being a good thing for the race?
Who's that? Oh, to me or to Brett?
Oh, no. Brett. The reason I brought Brett into it is because he's invested so much time in racing oceans. Like he's tried to create minis and he's got this Far X2 going, and so. I'm trying to sort of take the conversation to ocean racing, and it's a big passion of Brett's, going offshore, so and getting rescued. No, just stirring. That's a lie. Anyway, so I just wanted to sort of segue across into the ocean race, and then we'll talk about any of the other races in the ocean that matter, like old teams or whatever. So the question, How's the passion for the ocean race?
To Brett, yeah.
To Matt Sheahan.
You answer.
You're the guest.
Don't avoid it, Matt. Don't avoid it.
Oh, no, I can answer it. Yeah, sorry. I was
No, it's
polite.
not to me. I meant to be asking you questions.
Oh, I see. Right, I'm quite new to this, and quite new to this sort of thing, this media scene.
Oh, it's been a bit of a throw because I got here late. I know. It's okay. Go on.
Well, yeah. I mean, the ocean race, it's in a difficult place, isn't it? I mean, there's no, there's no getting away from that. And I mean, what was interesting, what I found, I worked on it last year for the Ocean Race Europe. I was asked to go down and help out with that, and it was fascinating. It was really, really interesting, and because we had the Volvo 65s and the Imoca 60s racing side by side, and it didn't go. I think if you're an Imoca 60 fan, it didn't quite go according to plan. It wasn't quite the event that you would have wished for because the 65s just kept outperforming them every time. But I mean, what did we expect? To be honest, it was light weather. A lot of it was upwind, and it was.
And
just
you've gone into the med in nothing. Yeah,
exactly. And it was just all the things that Imoca 60s aren't designed for.
Yeah.
But it was fascinating to see. I mean, I thought the racing in the six. I mean, if nothing else, it helped pursue an argument, or a line of argument that I have, that I always felt. I thought the 65s. I heard all the criticism from some quarters of the 65s saying, "Oh, they're outdated now, and we've got to move on, and we've got to make them more pokey, and we preferred the 70s, and blah blah blah." But the 65s provided some really close racing, some of the closest racing we've ever seen in the race. And it was fascinating. And so I'm sure it was very frustrating for the crews at times, but watching it was fantastic. I mean, there's just close racing, boats that generally didn't, I mean, I know we did have breakdowns, but didn't break down in the ways that the 70s just exploded and caused all kinds of problems and nearly sort of spelt the end of the race, really, in many ways. But so I was always quite a fan of the 65s, and I was a bit disappointed to hear that there was such a strong movement that said, no, at their time, got to move on to the next thing. Let's reinvent the wheel. It just didn't make sense to me.
I agree with that.
So it was good to see them with close racing. It was good to see, our sport is not flush with money to the point that we can just ditch a class and say, yeah, let's go and design a completely new one. We've got plenty more people that are going to come in and pay the bucks. We've got to move on stage by stage. So I was really pleased to see such close competition. I was also pleased to see that teams could get into it for a relatively low cost. I mean, we don't want to go back over America's Cup discussions, but just very briefly, one of the things we talked about last week was 2007 in Valencia. That particular cup was really successful. One of the reasons it was successful was because you could pick up a boat and get involved in the cup for relatively little money. And that was because there was a whole bundle of other boats there that you could go and tap into. And to me, the ocean race and having the 65s offers part of that pathway, part of that entry into that type of racing. So I'm quite a fan of that, but I do appreciate it's not pushing at the envelope. But that's the problem with the one design anyway. But it's got plenty of other.
After the Europe race around Europe with the 65s in particular, two parts to this question. Was there a vibe that all those teams that competed will be competing in the race, and was there also a vibe that the Imoca boats that competed, who ended up getting their bit of a kicking, could have been a deterrent to actually compete on a global basis?
I think, to answer the first question first, from what I can remember, all of these the teams racing 65s had aspirations to go and do the race. They were quite clear on that. But I don't think any of them, I might be wrong here, but I don't think any of them had funds that would take them right the way through, and they could say, yeah, we're definitely going to be there. But they all had aspirations. It was all part of the process.
Yeah, the lead up, yeah.
Yeah, and one of the things that was good about that was that, that event was never going to be, a massive crowd puller, but it was really good in lots of ways, and it did keep the story going. It kept people interested. It helped the organisation as much as it did teams get their heads around how they want to sort of structure an event, and so it did loads of good things for it. So it was a very, very useful event. As far as the IMOCA 60 teams were concerned, I mean, it was a bit embarrassing for them, I guess, to be beaten by 65s on pretty much every leg. But they weren't expecting any different, and if they were, they were looking at the wrong tree. But I don't think they were particularly surprised. I think, and also the problem with the problem with that particular race, or the problem with the IMOCA 60s in the next ocean race, was not so much to do with that. There were some bigger issues with the conflict with the is it the Route de Rhum, isn't it? Route de Rhum? Yes, the Route de Rhum.
Yeah, Route de Rhum.
Yeah, the clash. And so, that's a big deal for IMOCA teams to do the Route de Rhum. Now, that's been addressed to a certain extent now, so hopefully that's opened it up a bit. But anyway, my point is there were lots of other factors involved that have provided stumbling blocks or obstacles to getting a big IMOCA 60 fleet in the next ocean race. It wasn't just about, because I think you put them out in the ocean and you send them downwind, and you wouldn't take very long to figure out which is the quicker boat.
I mean, what we see now, the IMOCA fleet are absolutely thriving in the sense you can't even buy a boat. Like a boat that's been built in the last 10 years probably. And the offering now of what the ocean race does with relatively limited stopovers, long Southern Ocean legs, is what IMOCA's built for. So you'd think the offering is there, but the question is whether the team offering or the culture exists to compete in something like that. We all hope it does, obviously, but whether they want to, the current fleet want to move out of what they've been doing for the last 20 years to step up to the ocean race. Again, we all hope so. I think one of the issues, well, there's all kinds of issues around, isn't it? But some of the sort of broader issues, the sort of obstacles to competing for the IMOCA teams that you see in the Vendée Globe and a lot of the French teams, is that there's two key things. One is that when you look at the Vendée Globe, it's a long way around the world, but it's a relatively, and I say that, it's a relatively cheap, affordable race to do, because you've only got, your start and your finish point is in the same place. You're not, and as you guys know better than anybody else, the real cost is in a stopping race around the world is in going to all the stopovers and all the logistics and everything else. And the more stopovers you get, the more expensive it gets, and the more complex it gets, and it's just. And so that's one thing, is that the Vendée Globe compared to a stopping race is way, way more affordable for a start. The second thing that plays into that is that whilst there are lots and lots of French IMOCA teams in particular, their sponsors who get a tremendous amount out of it. They're local, they're French sponsors sponsoring French boats and French products. A lot of their marketing campaigns are not based around world domination. They don't have any markets outside, or they're not trying to get to markets outside of France. So a stopping tour around the world doesn't really do anything for them, because that's not their market. That's not what they're aiming at. And so, I might have got this wrong, but, looking at it from the outside, I get the impression that when it was announced that IMOCA 60s could be in the next ocean race, a lot of the French teams looked at it and said, yeah, that'd be great. Yes, you can have our boat. We'll put together a rate card. How much it's going to cost you? And rather than, I think the initial expectation was that if IMOCA 60s were allowed into the ocean race, then the teams would be clambering over each other to get an entry in. Well, that didn't happen because it wasn't their market. That's not what they're geared up for. So I think that's been one of the big obstacles. But I mean, I would like to see it. I mean, it would be great. It would be great to have them in there. So enough about the future of the ocean race. How about the history? Best stopover you attended, Matt, throughout the history of either Whitbread or Volvo?
And we want details.
Well, the best stopover. Well, can I answer it with two answers?
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
most frequent stopover, and the one that I'm fondest of, is Cape Town.
Yeah.
It's Cape Town's just fantastic because it's just. I've been there. I don't know how many times I've been there, but it's, as you guys know, it's the thing about Cape Town is it's quite a long way to get there to start with. So it's a proper leg, and it's the first proper major sort of shakedown, and after a big sort of build up, and also from a journalist point of view, that's the first time when you start seeing things break down and stories pop up and people walking off the boat and all kinds of things happening. It's a great place, and it's a fantastic place. Love going there. Really enjoy that. That's always exciting. I love going to Cape Town. My favourite one as a destination to go, it's got to be Auckland. Just absolutely love going there. But then I'm completely infatuated with the place anyway. But love going there. There's always a massive turnout. There's always the locals always turn out in their thousands to come and see it, and it really feels like quite a party. And yeah, so that's my favorite. South America is a cool one to go to as well, because again, from a story point of view, when people come in and they're totally battered, and things are often breaking down by them.
I do laugh because I quite often get asked this same question. And first of all, Cape Town, you mentioned that, and then but also, how about this place? But also that. Remember that time we went to Rio?
But how about India?
India.
Exactly.
Cochin.
India.
Cochin.
That was fantastic. That was
really
absolutely superb. Yeah,
was it?
Lovely.
I can imagine from a journalistic point of view, as you mentioned, that after the first leg, a lot of secrets come out, starting back in probably 97 when I think EF, first time everyone saw the Code Zero off the start out of Southampton. Well, during that first leg, and then everyone's rushing to try and match that, and there's a whole lot game of play catch up going on when you are in Cape Town as well. So from a performance point of view, it's a very important stopover as well. That first one, because everyone's full secret squirrel. Well, they were prior to the first leg, right? So, and you've either got stuff that's blown up in the Solent or stuff that just blows people away. So, no, it's and it makes it a very long way to Cape Town or a very short trip to Cape Town. So, but you're right, Cape Town. I actually last time I was at the Basquel bar, I looked up to just out the corner of my eye, and I saw it like a whiskey booth with your name on it. Matt, did you buy a little area to keep your bottle of whiskey in there?
Where was this? In
the Basquel bar under the hotel just the other side of the little footbridge there.
Yeah, I know where you are. Yes.
Yeah.
Not knowingly, but I'll check my receipts.
Not knowingly. Must have been a big night, man.
Looked as though I had to be there for a while. So.
That's what I said, details. I think I met Clint Eastwood in that bar. Actually, Clint Eastwood walked down the stairs in that bar. Anyway, move on. Yep. So,
all right. So, stopovers, how about performances? Anything completely blow you away in the history of Whitbread Volvo world?
Oh, crikey, there's so much, isn't it? I mean, actually, I think, that the finish to the last race that came down to the last jibe. I mean, we can talk about it's the obvious thing to talk about would be the Southern Ocean and the stories that have come out there that are just stuff of legend, and quite rightly so, because that was proper. Some of that stuff was proper pioneering stuff. And in fact, I'll come back to one of those in a minute. But the finish to the last one, where the lead came down to the last jibe into the finish after 29,000 miles.
To this day. Yeah.
It's just extraordinary. I mean, and that's why I sort of say, it's weird, really, that we left the 65s on a high, and yet they never, as a class and as a fleet and as a boat and as a format for racing, offshore racing, they just seem to be they just haven't made it. Well, not haven't made it because they will be in the next event, but I don't know. In a way, I think they deserve more. But anyway, the other things, but there's that. And then I suppose the one that sticks in my mind, but there are so many. But remember Gordon Maguire. We all know Gordon Maguire. And his description of a written description of going down through the Southern Ocean, approaching Cape Horn, down towards the ice limits and looking out for growlers and doing whatever speed they were doing and knowing full well that if they saw one, that was it. And it was an extraordinary description, a really, really good piece of writing from someone who was clearly crapping themselves, and quite rightly so.
And there's that piece of audio that he does also. Sweat dripping down my back.
Oh, yeah.
Growler on the port bow. Growler. It is sensational. And we were lucky enough to have him on actually on the show. Probably, must have been a year or so ago. And that was one of his memories that just stick in his mind also. Down there. So, but like you say, it's pioneer stuff down there. Well, especially in years gone past and going back to, it's a different world now. It's not saying it's easier, but asymmetrical sails compared to these big poled out sails on the ketches, just roll the old IOR boats just rolling all over the joint. It just must have been hard yakka, wearing a bit of plastic to stop yourself getting wet.
Sou'wester.
At least you could take your guitar with you from the pictures I've seen.
Oh, yeah. I'm in. Right. Let's go.
Yeah. Gorgeous Gordon Maguire, episode 60.
Episode 60. All right, that's over a year ago.
Yeah. There you go. Ocean racing then, Matt. We've touched on the ocean race. Where you at with the big gear that we're seeing now? The feats of these guys, well, not only single-handed, but going around the world in these old teams that must
unbelievable.
Be.
Yeah. It's just, absolutely staggering. I cannot get my head around. I'm fascinated with these boats. I'm very lucky, actually. I've sailed 3 or 4 of them, at least 3 of them anyway. Sailed Sheahan a couple of times. And they're just amazing machines, 32 meters long, so 100 foot long, foiling now. As if life wasn't hard enough trying to sail one of those things. Now they're on foils. And they are just unbelievable. And I'm fascinated by them because the technology is a huge draw, clearly. I mean, they're just unbelievably quick machines, and they just, when they stay together, they clock up some incredible speeds. But more than that, the thing that I cannot get my head around is how on earth you get to a stage mentally, you get yourself into a state mentally where you're comfortable with the idea of handling one of these on your own. Because when I've sailed them, I sailed Spindrift as well, actually, which is, of course, as we know, is even bigger.
Oh, even bigger, yeah.
Yeah, and she's just amazing. But they're all amazing. But when you sail these boats, one of the things that strikes you is that there isn't a sail or a bloody coil of ropes that you can lift on your own. They're all so heavy. And how people move stuff around. So it's no surprise that all the sails are on furlers and the rest of it, which is all fine. You don't have to hump these sails around the place. But the thing that, because I am a championship, Olympic grade, weapons grade warrior, the thing that goes through my mind is, so what happens when it goes wrong? Because I'm a great believer in it. Well, I say believer, mainly out of bitter experience, but it's amazing how small a failure you need to start a chain reaction that can be catastrophic. It only has to be, as we know, it only has to be a shackle that fails or something that then lets some strop go, that then overloads something else, and you get a chain of events. And suddenly you're faced with a beast that you simply cannot tame. Even if it was just sitting on the foredeck, you couldn't even lift it, let alone when it's flogging around in 25 knots of breeze. I don't know how you ever get to the state mentally where you can cope cope with that, and that's acceptable. No wonder these people are stress biscuits all the time, because and it's no wonder that it takes so long for them to sort of decompress after some of these, particularly the solo around the world races, solo around the world as record attempts. I mean, the level of stress that they're under all the way around is unbelievable. So I'm not surprised that it takes them a long time to sort of come to terms with it later on. But I remember talking to Jan Guichard, isn't it? Jan Guichard is the skipper of Spindrift, and I sailed with him, sailed on that boat a few years ago, and he was gearing up. He hasn't done it, but he was gearing up at that point to sail it single-handed around the world, set a new record. But in the meantime, he was racing across the Atlantic can't remember the race now, but he was racing across. And I was saying to him, so but what happens if things go wrong and you get this chain of events? And he said, well, I get off. I said, well, what do you mean I get off? He said, you just get off the back. He said, that way, that's the way I go out there, points into the back of the boat. And he was serious. It was like, he said, there's no way that I can handle it if it goes wrong. It's like, okay, so you're just sitting on this missile,
waiting for something to happen.
Slightly wrong.
Waiting.
But I mean, even that is just, I just don't know how you get to that stage. But I don't know lots of things.
I've got a visual image of the crazy coyote not chasing the road one on a missile, just sitting on top of the missile.
Exactly. But they are
with a life raft on the back.
There are amazing things to sail, and so the other thing is getting over the mental side of it. As I say, I've sailed Chitana 17 a few times, and it's absolutely fascinating the complexity of that boat as well. I mean, it's difficult enough understanding polars on any performance boat, but when you talk about a multi-hull, it's just got an extraordinary performance profile. And then you stick it on foils on top of that, and you've got to understand how the foils work, which ones to interact. And there's no rule, there's no guide, there's no form guide for this. No one's sort of done it 100 times before, and you go and pick up the manual and go, yeah, that's what happened last time. This is all pioneering stuff, and they're learning on the fly. And it's absolutely fascinating. And the weird thing is that it's one of my other favorite thoughts is that some boats shrink when you get on them, so that you get on them and you think, crikey, this is a massive boat. And then you start a boat that works, for me anyway, design-wise, is one in which after a period of time, you start to get used to it, and it's just like normal. It's like, yeah, it's okay. It's this is what it is. And some of those old teams are like that. You get on them to start with, and you're intimidated by the sheer size of them. I did the Round the Island race on one of them a couple of years ago, and with 1,000 boats on the start line, and we're coming through in an old team through the fleet. It was like, even closing my eyes didn't cure the problem for me. We were doing 30 knots through the start line, and there's all these other boats around, and they're as cool as cucumbers, these guys. They knew how to handle the boat. They knew what to look out for, and the rest of it. Wow. And it was absolutely fascinating. And after a period of time, even just on that race, which unfortunately was a very slow race, the boat starts to feel smaller. And when boats start to shrink and you start to feel comfortable on them, I think that's always a good indication of where the design actually works. If you feel comfortable sitting on it. And I guess that's what these guys get to. These professionals who are on these boats day in, day out, they live them, they breathe them, they develop them, they sail them. They have to overcome their anxiety and the nerves and everything, but they do sort of get to that point. But they are incredible beasts. And after a while, you sit there, and I've been lucky enough to helm a few of them, and they're really strange boats to helm because you're just looking at numbers. I mean, you can forget anything that you've ever learned about sailing when you get on one of these, because they don't feel like anything you've ever sailed before, and it's all about steering to the numbers. But they're absolutely fascinating, and I love them.
So, Matt, given we could either roll into episode 3 and 4. let's move from the ocean to the sky for a little bit. Yeah. Well, I certainly am. We're mates on Facebook, and you do get up to a little extracurricular activity. Maybe we could call it 3D sailing.
Yeah.
But you find yourself up in the clouds sometimes, or non-clouds for that matter.
As often as I can, to be honest. Yeah. So I do a bit of gliding. I'm very into my cross-country competition gliding, basically.
Yeah, I want to hear more about this cross-country side and how that works.
Well, you're a champion.
So,
tell us your story about gliding.
I remember you winning a few champs, mate.
Yeah, we've won a few things. Yeah, over the years.
When you say we, is it you and someone else in the?
Well, I've got two planes because obviously you have to have two. You can't have one. That's not enough. So I've got a single seater which I've had. It's a standard Cirrus, which is a single seater, 15-meter glider. It's I always call it the 505 of the gliding world because it is one of those. Here we go again. Yeah. It's one of those. It's a timeless design. It's actually designed back in 1968. But it's just one of those planes that is still, it's starting to show its age a little bit now, but it's been a datum in performance gliding, and certainly in that category. Anyway, I've got that as a single seater, which I've had for a long time, 25 years, something like that. Done lots of competitions in that. And then I'm in a syndicate with a glider at the other end of the scale, which is called a Nimbus 3DT, which is a two-seater, which is why I say we, which is a two-seater, which is pretty big. That's much bigger plane. That's an open class plane. That's 27, just over 27 meter wingspan. So that's huge. And it was, that was designed back in the 80s, and it was the open class. It was the maxi of the gliding world back in the day. And interestingly, just like yacht design, sailboat design, back in the day in gliders, performance glide ratio, the glide slope was all about wingspan, basically. The longer the wings, the more efficient it was. But you pay a price with all of that, and with drag and maneuverability and all that kind of stuff. And what's interesting is that the modern gliders now, it's not about wingspan. And the modern high-performance gliders are absolutely extraordinary. They've got smaller wingspan. They're down to sort of 21 meters, and they run circles around us. And we're supposed to be the big daddy. But they're better performance in a straight line. They're better at high speed. They maneuver better. They turn better. They do just like boats. Yeah,
I was going to say, the story is familiar.
Yeah. So from a design point of view, it's fascinating. Anyway, that's why I use the word we, because I've got a two-seater. But the cross-country side of it, so I do like the competition side. It's very much like, it's just like sailing, in that we get set a course. And that course can be anything from, a small course is 100 kilometers, and a big course in the UK, anyway, a big course would be 600, 700 kilometers, quite a big course. So if you can visualize the UK, for where I live and where I fly from down the south at Lasham, which is one of the world's biggest gliding clubs, we will start there. And our first turning mark might be somewhere in Wales on the Welsh border.
Wow.
And then from the Welsh borders, then we'll go right across the country, maybe to East Anglia or somewhere like that, around a turn point there, and then back into the middle of the country and Northampton, Oxford, home. That would be probably 500k, something like that. Or we might go down to the West Country and back or whatever. But so you go all the way around this course, and basically it's just like, so you get given this course that you fly around. It's all about how fast you can get around the course. And the only difference with sailing is that you start, whilst they launch everybody, they then open the start line, and you can start whenever you like, and you can start as many times as you like, and it's the last start that is your valid one. So it's a time trial, really, a bit like a rally around the sky. And in some of the classes where we've got handicaps, just like an IRC handicap. Some there's a time multiplication factor, and some of them it's basically either one design or not one design. Yeah, exactly.
Post.
So hang on.
I did pick up. There's probably one other thing that's not similar to sailing. You can't have a piss off the back.
There it was.
Oh, you can.
It's out the bottom.
my wife is always telling people that, and they said, "Oh, that's That's,
Do not be in North Anglica on Sunday the 13th.
Don't look up.
She's
4
always
o'clock in the
saying
afternoon.
because I'm always joking about places that I've weed over. If someone will mention something, oh, I've weed over there, and she's always said the friends who say, oh, that's fascinating, Matt. Next time I see a glider, I'll keep an eye on. She said, I wouldn't if I
Yeah,
do that. I'd run for cover.
Put your sou'wester on.
Run for cover.
My brain went to the exact same spot, Bossy. I was going the exact same question.
100 kilometres on a glider. That's just insane.
Oh, 600
Yeah,
kilometres.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool.
So are you just sorry? I've just got to ask this question. So when you're up there, you're obviously relying on some form of thermal as well to get you up higher. And you've how do you read that? How do you read that? You feel it?
We basically, just to wind back one step before. So we all get launched. So we sit on the grid on the runway waiting to go, and we've all been briefed. We've got course and blah blah blah. And when the race committee think it's suitable to go and conditions have started to cook, then they launch us all. They launch the whole fleet. Usually the classes are about 40 in each class, and we can have as many as 100 or more planes.
Bloody hell.
Lashing. Quite often, and Lashing's
That's
a big
a lot
club.
of urine.
And even on a weekend, on a good weekend, we can easily have 100 cross-country planes whizzing around the place. Anyway, they launch us, and then they open the start line, and then basically you can start whenever you want, and off you go. But they launch us to 2,000 feet usually, and then after that, you're on your own. 2,000 feet. If you didn't have any thermals at all, it'd be about 10 minutes before you're back down on the ground.
Well, this is the question I've got to ask. You've got 600 Ks. What happens if you're 400 Ks away from where you want to be and you've got no thermal?
You end up putting another farmer on your Christmas card list.
That's what I was going to ask.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. That's what I'm going.
So you're constantly, to get around the course, you're only ever, I'm often say to people, you're only ever sort of 10, 15 minutes away from landing in the field. It's maybe longer than that sometimes, but generally we're flying at heights of, typical tall, high thermal in the UK is 5,000 feet, something like that. But you're sort of operating at 4. If you got a day where the thermals go to 5,000 feet, you're pretty happy. Around here in South Africa, where a whole bundle of friends go over the winter and race out there, they're talking about thermal tops at 16,000 feet, and it's a different deal. And in Spain, it's the same. We used to go and train in Spain, and it's the same deal there. 15,000 feet is not unusual in thermal. But anyway, so you're looking for thermals, hot air thermals, and you're basically looking for one of the key clues to thermals, not exclusive, but is cumulus cloud. And so the nice white puffy cloud that is at the beginning of the Simpsons intro, that's what you're looking for. And that's basically a product of sun heats the ground, the moisture, the hot air rises, there's moisture in it, and as it goes up, it cools down, condenses, and forms a cloud. And the cumulus and the bottom part, and the cumulus cloud is I always describe it as a bit like steam out the end of a kettle. It's sort of the product of something that comes out at the end. So when you see a cumulus cloud, chances are there's a thermal under it. The clue as to whether it's really active or not, the two real key clues. One is how flat the bottom is. If it's a very well-defined flat bottom that's actually quite dark, and even better if it's slightly concave in the bottom, that's indicating that there's a strong hot air source, there's hot air column underneath it. And then the other thing that gives you an indication as to just how punchy that thermal might be is how tall the cloud top is. So if you can see the top of the cumulus cloud, if it's punching right out the top, it gives you a good idea that it's probably quite a pokey thermal. That's a real approximation, generalization, because it's not always like that. Sometimes there's no cumulus clouds at all, where the air's so dry that it's not forming clouds, and then they're called blue days. And that's quite difficult because then you've got to feel it, and then you've got to start looking for things on the ground, heat sources on the ground, and start anticipating where the hot air is going to come from. So that's a lot harder. But yeah, so you're looking for those clouds, and basically you're jumping from cloud to cloud, and so you know that you've got to go from here to, I don't know, Hereford, which is about 100k away from here. And just like sailing, it's like picking the shifts, except the shifts that you're picking to get there is going up. Yeah, but it might take you off to the left and the right. So going, the shortest route to Hereford is a straight line straight in front of you. but actually that wouldn't necessarily be the quickest route. You've got to look to where the best clouds are. Then you've got to interlace that with the airspace. So you've got to get around restricted airspace, danger zones, restricted areas, all that kind of stuff that might stop you from. Typically, the best thermal will be in the bit of restricted airspace. So you've got to be thinking about that as well. So it's a three-dimensional...
In the restriction zones.
What the hell are we doing on this bloody water bullshit? Just imagining all the different modes. You see something over there, you get the lift, you put the bow down, you're just smoking towards the mark type setup.
Yeah, but then you put an exclusion zone in there. I mean, take the Fastnet, for example. That's a good example. That decision as to which side of the exclusion zone to go when you go around the land.
It's crucial.
That's a very good example of what we're dealing with all the time in gliding. Is you're threading and making those decisions.
I guess another big difference, guys, between sailing and gliding is when you're sailing, you've really got things like ships to watch out for and things like that. A jumbo jet coming at you the same direction as you're gliding could be a little bit of a different experience compared to a ship. Other planes, how is that? Is that an issue?
It's not ideal if that happens. That's for sure.
My point is there's a ship. It's quite easy to read where it's going and how fast it's going. A jumbo jet or
there would be a lot of paperwork involved in that kind of situation afterwards, I would imagine. Well, you have to stay. You got to stay out of. There's various levels of airspace, and you've got to stay out of certain corridors and the rest of it. But there is open. I mean, jumbo jet would be a bit tricky, but that you do get quite. You can in some cases.
Average Cessna, for example.
Well, then there's whole areas where you've got open airspace where it's visual flight rules (VFR).
Bump into everyone.
So you're looking out and
the odd paraglider.
Yeah. We get plenty of those. You get loads of paragliders around, and
do they wave? Do they wave when you go by?
Yeah, they do, and you sort of go past them. The trouble with them is they sort of hang there like they're literally in suspended animation because they fly so slowly. They're only doing sort of 20 or 30 knots, and we're doing 80, 90 knots when we come past them. And they turn rather quickly.
You hear where I'm going, Vicey, are you?
You don't want to go too close to them, but. No, there's an awful lot of stuff up in the air, and you've got to keeping a lookout is the most important thing.
What's the strangest craft you've seen up there?
Well, no one.
A blimp,
hot air balloon.
We've been around balloons and lots of those. No, the weirdest things is when you come across crisp packets and wheat, and at 3,000 feet. Things that have got stirred up in thermals on the ground, and the rubbish and the litter that ends up up in the air is quite surprising.
And the odd kite border.
What about, have you ever been up when there's been a lightning storm?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question.
You try and avoid those. That's not a good idea. I have been around when it started sparking, and that's a bit frightening. You want to stay away from that. And there have been cases of gliders and obviously aircraft being struck by lightning.
Yeah.
But you want to try and avoid that.
Yeah, your history in sailing, that's given you a bit of an edge in gliding. What came first?
Well, the sailing
came first. Yeah,
sailing came first. But even as a kid, I was really interested in planes, and one of my uncles used to fly gliders at the club that I'm a member of now, and I was forever badgering him to take me flying. He never did, so he still owes me as far as I'm concerned. I don't care that he's 84; he's still got a debt to pay. He said he was going to take me, but So and I was fascinated with flying, and then learned to fly in the early 80s, and but it's interesting because there's so much crossover between the two sports. And so I learned, when it came to the things that I used from sailing that helped me in flying was strategy for things like, a good example is like flying crosswind so you've got, the breeze at 90 degrees and you've got, 50 miles or whatever it is to get to the next waypoint. You can spot the sailors in the gliding fleet because they just intuitively all go upwind. They just keep looking for thermals upwind of the rum line. because as they're climbing in the thermal, they're drifting down onto the run line, and then they just keep going like you would if you were crossing the tide. You wouldn't really let yourself get down tide if you're going across the tide, would you? And it's the same, and it's just a natural instinct for sailors to do that in flying. And it's quite interesting that when you get to the turn point, which wherever it is, in Wales or whatever, you get there and you see the people who let themselves drift downwind, and they're all struggling to get upwind in weak thermals, trying to get around the turn point, whereas those of us that stayed high have just
banked it early.
A bit like putting the bow down and off we go. See you later, guys. So that really helped. The other way around, flying has really, really helped me in my sailing, because one of the things I always say about gliding that I find fascinating is, unlike sailing, there is absolutely nothing physical about flying. I mean, of course there is. You've got to move your limbs, but it's not. We're so used to in sailing saying, "Oh, I'm too tall, I'm too short, I'm too fat, I'm too light, I'm too whatever, or I'm just plain not fit enough," and it compromises your performance in the boat. It doesn't really happen in gliding, because you're strapped in. You're literally just moving your feet and your hands, and your success or failure is all dependent on how you think about what you're going to do. It's nothing to do with the physical side of it. It's not that hard to learn to fly a plane. And
that was my next question, Matt.
No, they're not. I've done a lot of instructing over the years, and people pick it up much more quickly than they think. And I've taken lots and lots of sailors flying, and I've yet to take any sailor of any age, be it a kid or anybody else, who hasn't got it, so to speak, within 10 to 15 minutes. They might not be able to land the plane, but they get it, because it's just so similar. So the thing that I found fascinating is that you succeed or fail by how you think about. So it's basically reading the sky. It's about stress management, because underneath it all, unlike sailing, if things go really, really pear-shaped, we can just stop generally, unless you're on a lee shore. But a lot of the time, you can just stop, even if it's just for a short space of time, get things sorted out, get back underway, let's get going. You can't stop in flying. You are 15 minutes away from being in the next field. And I've landed in lots and lots of those. And that is the end of your day. And it can be very, very stressful as well. I won't make light of it. It's not a good place to be. You don't want to be doing that. We're all taught how to do it, and it is an essential part before you go cross country. You have to know how to land in a field. But when you land in a field, you won't, unless it's an airfield, you don't really know what the surface is. You've got to be able to
damage your plane.
Yeah, you damage your plane. You certainly damage yourself. You can do all kinds. You don't know whether it's level. You don't know what the surface is like. There's power lines. There's electric fences. There's all kinds of weird things. So you really don't want to be doing that. But anyway, so there's a lot of stress there. And the thing that I've learned about it is it's given me a lot more confidence in my ability to make the right decisions under pressure. I think, we've all been in difficult situations on the water and under a lot of pressure. But I think compared to the sustained level of pressure, I'm not really selling the idea of it as being fun now, am I? But in gliding,
cross country is different. Let's make a point. Cross country is different to going up in the air and then coming down and landing in the same spot you took off from. Let's make that point. Yeah.
But it is tremendously satisfying you're under pressure to make these decisions, and you have to. It's not an option. It's like, you do this or you're going to be in the field. And if you're in the field, you're running a massive risk. So I don't want to be in the field. So you discover things about yourself that I suppose it's a little bit like offshore sailing in that respect. It's just compressed in gliding. So in offshore sailing, as many of us know, is one of the great things about offshore sailing is that you're out there for long enough, it does take you into a different place mentally as well. You discover things about yourself and endurance and how you think about things and how you cope with things and how you cope with yourself. And gliding's like that, but it's over a shorter space of time. It's more compressed, and you learn a lot from it. And it definitely has helped me in making decisions and having the confidence to make the right decisions, and the confidence that if I'm under pressure, I can make that decision and make the right one. And it is at the end of the day, you come back from having flown for 5, 6, 7 hours, whatever it is, around the course, and you've been all the way around the country and you've looked down at traffic jams and beautiful bits of countryside and some stunning scenery, and you've flown with some buzzards and some red kites, and you've charged alongside other planes.
Potato crisp bags.
Yeah, collected some crisp bags and had a wee here and there. And you come back, it is just amazing. You land back and you think, that's pretty cool. I've been doing it for quite a long time, and I still am infatuated by it. It's just amazing sensation.
Bicey, why don't we back it on the to-do list, on the bar karate to-do list?
Oh, hang on. Here, I've got it just here.
Yeah. Right. Love it.
Mate, I'm going to have to say, Matt, one
Part
thing
3
you're always supposed to do is leave people wanting more. And I think you've done that, because I just want this conversation to keep going on and on and on. So I think what we'll just say to you, Matt, is that you've got a permanent invite. You can come on whenever you want, and we'll just randomly just pick up when something interesting is happening. But we're going to call it for tonight and the end of part 2. It was just fantastic, as per what we expected. And that gliding conversation, we might be starting the bar karate gliding. Do they do bar karate at the end of the day?
So when you get into the bar and you went that way, you got that thermal, I did that thermal.
Oh, it's more sort of, got you. Yeah.
He's been there, he's got it. He's been there. It's just the same.
Right. Well,
fantastic.
As you say, there is a sort of a resemblance between sailing and gliding. So
3D sailing.
I think we could pull a podcast over for sure.
Yeah. Actually, the final thing I'd say about it very quickly is that one of the reasons why it's particularly interesting right now is that never, certainly not since I've known, never has sailing and flying been so close in terms of performance. You look at the performance of cup boats, international masters, we're talking about 40, 50 knots now. Well, both the planes that I fly, both cruise around at about 40, 50 knots. That's how they operate. Now, our upper end is a bit higher. It's about 140 knots in the big plane. And the lower end is probably stalling at sort of 35, 40 knots. But we're in the same territory now as cup boats. And it's fascinating. And the link between the technologies and the knowledge is
pretty interesting. Bloody fantastic.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Love it. Best.
Right, I'm putting it on the list, BP.
Well done. When are we getting it?
Yeah.
All right, we're creating a lay day and the Teakle Classic, and we're all going flying.
Can you imagine touching down in a paddock out in Australia comparative to the UK? You touch down in the UK, it's all
one of those big kangaroos got their fucking dogs up, ready for a punch on.
You got to land
John Sheahan.
John Sheahan,
there was an F-bomb.
Yeah. And cobwebs. Certain death.
You joke about that. I got surrounded. I got landed in one field a few years ago, and landed in this field. I don't like landing in pasture fields because the surface is pretty rubbish, and also there's usually livestock in there. But I could see the livestock, and they were behind what I could see was an electric fence, or so I thought. Anyway, long story short, landed in the field, was swearing at myself for being such an idiot and blowing myself out of the race. And then as I looked across, there's a great big cow's face looking gave me the fright of my life. And then I jumped out of the plane and surrounded, there must have been about 100 of them all around the plane. And I've been told some of the stories about how cattle can destroy your glider. And it's not what you think. The first thing they do is they like licking the gel coat. Such abrasive tongue. They just tear the gel coat off. And then their second party trick is they just stamp around and put their feet through the wings and the rest of it.
Oh no!
So I ended up spending the next half hour trying to herd.
Shoo, Bessie, shoo.
All a bit exciting, but I managed it in the end. But
being just imagine you running around a field with 40 cows trying to look after your glider. If it was the big one, it's 100 meter, 30 meter wingspan. So that's a fair old jog.
Yeah.
Get away from there. Right, get over the other side.
The irony, Matt, is that BP loves licking gel coat as well.
I do. I've been doing it all day. I've been doing it for the last 10 days, actually. Yeah, having a great time. Thank you very much, Jordan, the great Spencer. Matt, awesome. Love it. Fantastic.
Right. Thank you very much for having me, guys. It's been a pleasure. Thoroughly enjoyed
Thanks, Matt.
it. Give us a call anytime.
Will do.
If you do want to come flying, come and.
we're there.
Actually, yes.
we
And if you want to see, if anybody wants to see what on earth I was babbling on about, another shameless plug for the Planet Sail website. If you go to the America's Cup section, in fact, there's quite a few gliding videos on the Planet Sail website. I did quite a lot around the America's Cup because I was flying down in Auckland just for fun in between. But I did a few back up here as well, sort of linking the two things. So if you are fascinated, interested in it, it's all on Planet Sail on YouTube.
On YouTube.
Right, well,
okay.
We the three of us will be there. I know there's only 2 seats, but you're going to have 3 flights very soon.
Perfect.
Just order the quadruple XL helmet for Jordan.
Yeah, he's not that tall, but he's got a big head. Righto, let's go.
See you, Ron.
Cheers.
Cheers.
A word of advice, gents. Check out Matt's video doing the comparison between the cup boats and his flying, the gliding. Bloody cool.
Very cool.
I must admit, when I was watching it, I thought, Bice could get into a bit of this action just to add it to the list, but I don't think they sell 70-year-old gliders that I could get my hands on.
Sounds like,
Good news is they don't drip oil.
They drip other things.
Well, it is another project, so put on the list, Bicey. Well, let's do it.
Oh, God. BK glide.
Yeah, I've always wanted to have a bit of a crack, that whole 3D sailing thing.
Yeah.
And I must admit, since we've interviewed and spoken about it, I've taken a bit of a different approach looking at the clouds.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Thinking what it would be like up there?
No, just how the thermals work and all that sort of stuff. Right. After how Matt was talking about it. So,
yeah.
Good fun chatting to Matt, as usual. Always a ton of fun. It's seen so much. So, thanks so much for taking time to spend with us. I'm sure we'll have him on again at some stage. But, I guess it was a great from what I can hear, we're all interested in going for a glide at some stage. So that sounds like it's going to happen. All right. Club events. There's nothing happening this week, is there? Is there anything happening?
No. Not that I know of.
Oh, gents. I'm not sure if I've mentioned it before. I'm not sure. By the way, if you're playing bingo at home.
It's time to get your little ticker out.
The Teakle Classic.
Oh, is it?
Yes, we'll be starting this Friday coming, Adelaide to Port Lincoln. Just had a Sunday night dinner with the brother-in-law, with Paddo, who will be doing it on the Ichiban. I'll be on another hooligan, and she'll be 3 TPs going at it. Looks like a quick race at this point in time. So let's see what the weather does in the next couple of days. But
quick race.
Potentially, yeah. So 3 or 4 a.m. finish.
So we're talking a little light sort of, or medium to sort of normal southwesterly start.
Quite a strong sea breeze to start with, and then just clocking southeast for a nice little reach across the foot.
Yep,
and then probably getting a bit lighter heading up to Dangerous Reef, and then heading into the centre of the universe, Port Lincoln.
The centre of the universe, very good. I remember the last one in 2019. I didn't do much. He didn't know what I did, but I did do something.
Hit the button, Jordan. Hit the button.
Well, thanks, Brett. It was great having you on board. Not sure what you did, but...
Well, I can tell you what I did do. That reach along the bottom you mentioned, you did 2019, didn't you?
Yeah.
That reach along the bottom was phenomenal. I've got to say, the sun was going down. We had the jib stick out. We were just absolutely fanging across there. It was beautiful. One of the best sails I've had in a long, long time. So,
yeah. A great race, and I'm sure you'll be hearing about it for a bloody long time. But one thing we won't be doing is recording Barkarati on a Sunday.
No, we won't. It's 2 years ago, and we're still.
I can't believe we've done 152 episodes, and I remember doing 151.
That was pretty funny. It was not our best work. Well, I was fine. There was two idiots.
Well, yeah, I think that's when it started.
I actually haven't listened to that episode. I should get back on it.
No, don't bother, man. Don't bother.
All right, moving on. Good luck. Good luck on the
absolutely,
weekend.
Bossy. Good luck.
Yeah.
How's the boat? How's the boat? Sorted?
I don't know. We'll just sort it out Friday morning. We'll be right.
There you go. That's how it rolls, the Teagle Classic.
Listener of the week, boys.
Listener of the week.
There's been a couple of things. I have seen some correspondence, but you're going to have to take this one.
Oh, we didn't get the jingle going. Van the Man.
Oh,
The Jack Lloyd Listener of the Week.
I didn't even think of that. I can
maybe next week. So a couple of special mentions.
We'll get the team onto it.
Couple of special mentions. One being to Adam Hayes, GM, Cruising Yacht Club, South Australia. My mistake, I didn't get back to him, but when I was in ISO in Sydney, he obviously listens to the show, and he said, well, they'll constructively use that time whilst I am in ISO and not coming into the club to get the degreaser into my car park.
into the Bice Commodore car park.
Correct. So
get out there with the broom and give it a bit of a scrub.
You know how when you kind of leave the world and you want to leave a legacy. Well, Jordan, you've begun a legacy. Everyone takes a piss out of me and the Land Rover.
I wish we must publish. We got to publish the bingo the bingo sheet. So because that covered off too. Then we got.
We'll put the bingo out. We'll put the bingo out this week.
Commodore. Hang on, here comes another one. Here comes another one. Here comes another one. Here comes another one. Hey, just a question with changing the oil in Defender. Do you have to use old oil or do you have to use new oil? So it's got to be really black and thick and gunky, or is it just?
Well, you use more oil than petrol, put it that way. So, all right, second. This is second, just special mention goes to Tracy Harris and Matt, who are cruising from the Cruising Yacht Club, South Australia. And this is what Tracy sent in. As two cruisers sitting in Twofold Bay with a fishing line out listening to the Will Oxley, just saying that, yes, there is definitely interest. P.S. We've hardly sailed to windward much in the past 7 months. Great job, boys. Keep up the good work.
So the interest she's talking about there is cruising, so doing
correct.
Cruising.
The cruising when we spoke about that.
Yeah.
P.S. If you ever want to talk to some crusty old racer turned cruisers, there are plenty of stories, not just exploding heads. So, Trace, I'll tell you what, given that Matt, who you're currently travelling with on coming back to Adelaide right now with, he'll be on the Hooligan for the Teagle Classic. So maybe I'll break my microphone out at about, let's say 10:30 p.m. Saturday night after a solid session. And then we'll get some real stories.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So, no, Trace. So to the winner. To the winner.
No, to the winner. Here we go.
All right. Mate, this is a battle. A battle has ensued. This is from our friend Sean Wagner, who sent us the beer, if you remember correctly, from the US. Anyway, here we go. So as I finished this week's episode of Bay K, I was prepared to let you guys know you did it again. Another great show and fantastic guest, but as I got to the end, I'm now questioning everything about it. I find myself lost and confused. Like, what kind of operation are these Aussies running down there? Do they even have good judgment? I know they live upside down on that little island down there. But wow, what sort of standard do they really have? When the mould 11 controversy started, I provided solutions to help move your sailors' lager pirate ships, not rum runners, but lager runners, using those boats to run beer to other countries. I may or may not have broken several international laws with the merch pack of the year, the beer, the glasses, the koozies, the stickers, nothing. So, by the way, I've still got all this. You blokes probably never seen them. Some bloke with too much time on his hands comes along and jots down some tip bits and calls it Bar Karate Bingo. And suddenly there are two contenders for Listener of the Year. Wow. Just wow. I say we turn his bingo game into a drinking game. Mr. Schaefer and I sit together with his little bingo sheets, and we hammer a beer every time we get a square. Let's see who's standing at the end. That person becomes listener of the year. It's a jewel, bar karate style.
I love it. I love it. Well, we've had a few tonight already, so there's a bit of a warm-up tonight.
We could.
Sean,
That could
that's
be like
sensational.
I mean, not that we encourage drinking in any way.
No, we do not condone that sort of behaviour.
But imagine if you did just have like when
you
you're at a
saw that.
club one day, when we do one of the live ones, you just pull out the bingo sheet and then just see who the champions are.
Yeah, absolutely.
We used to, my basketball days when I was a young lad, I used to go to the big awards night for the best player in South Australia, and all my mates were in contention, and the way we used to do it on the table was we'd have a draw, and every time that person's name, you drew a name out of the hat. It couldn't be one of my mates. It was the other players.
Yeah.
So there was there were 6 of us. There was 5 guys that were in contention that would probably poll a lot of votes, and they'd put one guy in who was not going to poll any votes. And if you got that name, you were going to be designated driver. You had to drive because every time a name was called out.
How'd it feel pulling your own name out, Jordan? Bloody. Here we go. Mother Teresa was like, "Oh, I've got Jordan again. That's great. Thanks again."
But
how did it feel being the designated driver every year?
But what happened was the MCs, they worked out very, very quickly what was going on. So they'd repeat names quite regularly. So, oh, yeah.
Beauty.
So, that could evolve into something like that. Perfect.
Okay,
shout out, Sean. Just send us your info again, mate. I definitely will send some stuff up for you, champ. So thanks again.
It's hot time with Bice.
Sorry.
And to think you didn't like it the first time, Jordan. You just love it now.
We all have a giggle, don't we?
Well, I will say Buster Poindexter and that song from about 1990, I reckon, off memory.
Jesus, 1990?
Yep.
Yeah.
But that song came out in 1990.
I think that, or 89, something like that. That's my memory. But I'm certain it's Buster Poindexter. Because,
That's a cool name.
Yeah.
Rightio, hot time with Bice. Have I mentioned the Teakle Classic coming up?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, you haven't.
Just brushing past that. All right.
Hang on, here's another microphone.
Gents, we've seen a bit of movement in the camp this week. They've filled up the hungy hole to cook their dinner. They've packed their bags and their cholly buns.
Yeah.
And they're slipped on the jandals and they're out of there, bro. They're sweet as America Magic, Cuzzy Bros are leaving NZ.
They've left the batch.
They've left the batch.
Obviously, it's not going to be in NZ if they're doing that because there's a regatta on, isn't there? Isn't there a regatta coming up with the summer regatta or something they're called? I can't remember what it's called, but I thought there was a bit of a sale for those things to hoon around on again in New Zealand. But
so word has it they're setting up in Rhode Island again, setting things up. So I guess there's definitely is movement in the camp with obviously the recent announcement of the New York Yacht Club. Yeah. So things are moving forward, but things are moving from the south to the north.
It's probably smart because, one, they're not going to be back in New Zealand, and two, by being visible in the States, they'll get their sponsorship, get more sponsorship money. It's less visible in New Zealand from trying to pull, so you can it's a smart move.
Here. Next, I have, after talking about the ocean race last week, one thing we didn't mention, and I haven't seen Niall's second video, but there's obviously a big sustainability story attached to the next ocean race. And they have something called the Relay for Nature. Yes. And we saw the baton exchange earlier in the year when it went to, where was that? To the big conference that was in the UK, in Wales.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Oh, the G2 or whatever it was.
Yep. and there was a handover of the baton, and some of their, the key suppliers to the race with GAC got involved there, and a few different people. But worth a mention, the relay for nature is reaching some of the hobnobs. So we recently just had a handover between the French president and the Portuguese president.
There you go.
Straight to the top.
Absolutely.
So it's getting some traction. The only thing they need now is some boats.
Yeah.
It's pretty hard to jam yourself on a baton to go around the world. Just need some boats to go around the world.
Especially fired up.
So there's a good job. There's a good job being done there. A lot of awareness. And I'm just waiting for Greta to be announced as one of the skippers.
There you go. Yeah.
Well, she did that run across the Atlantic in that really nice weather. So I'm sure she's inspired. Probably
She's ready to go. She must be ready to go.
beauty.
High profile.
Rightio, gents. I've got two more here.
Yep.
One, so three of us within Bar Karate. We do feature on Facebook now and then. We have a few words here and there.
Yep.
But one of us really lost it this week.
Bloody oath he did.
Can you imagine?
Give us a little roundup, 100 words or less, BP.
100 words or less.
I'll give you 100 words or less. This bloody boat has been in my head for goddamn nearly 2 years.
Right.
And when I have a little milestone, I get excited.
Oh, no. You're so on the wrong track.
No.
Oh, what am I on about?
You're
now?
off the pace.
You're off the
pace on this one.
There was a news story on the front page of, what's it called?
Sailing Anarchy.
Sailing Anarchy.
Yeah.
On front page of Sailing Anarchy, talking about Mould 11 and the etching.
They've just broken the news about Mould 11.
Yeah, what's going on there? That's just resurfaced. That was old stuff.
But oh my God, there was some bloke came on there firing all cylinders on the Facebook page.
Sorry, I didn't know what you were going on about then, because I don't usually know what you're going on about.
16,000 messages.
That
BP.
is like from August last year.
Yeah. Anyway,
So
100 words or less.
It's all bleeped. And
Right, 5 words or less.
And
I
you
like
can all
it.
and you can all go and get bleeped. Every single bloody one of you.
No, but we did see some news out of the Etchels only a week ago, right? About some pathways forward for the Mould 11 boats in Australia. So stay tuned.
I've got to say, there was the second edition of the Gold Sailing League in Sydney, and I may have done myself out of a job.
Oh, you
really?
gave someone
You've been
a ride?
sacked? What happened?
Well, my skipper, David Dunn, has got an M11, Great White Hunter, 1483. And we've got obviously Will Mackenzie's away. I'm away. I put a couple of crew on and they bloody won the frickin' regatta.
We've always said you've been slowed down, David. You've been held back by those idiots.
That's right. David, thank God you've now seen the light, my friend.
the light.
Yes,
Congratulations.
that's right. No. and I've got to tell you what, I'm super proud of them. They sailed very, very well. They sailed 4 up, actually. So it's the first time David's experienced that. So I haven't really had too much of a debrief other than shifty conditions. And they went out there and
And we won. All crew get a bonus this week.
Yeah. 4-1-1-3-1-3, I believe it was.
Yeah,
so
cool.
not a bad result. That's your numbers, Jordan.
Yeah, that's how to do it. Exactly how to do it. That's
Mr. Consistency.
Yeah.
All right, last one I got. It's more an observation than anything.
Yeah.
So I've got all these bloody Sonos speakers around, and you log in and Sonos radio, right? Yacht rock. What the hell is yacht rock? Have you ever come across yacht rock? Is this just something totally new to me, or is this some
What is it, a rock and roll
Seppo
station or
bullshit
something?
that's come into the game? I don't know.
It should be outlawed altogether.
It's isn't it like when you go?
It's
on the
kind
beach?
of like soft rock, I'd call it. But
Yeah,
how's
rock.
the relationship?
I don't know.
Yacht
Like,
rock.
I
Is
don't
that
understand.
like-
I have heard that term quite a bit, yacht rock, and it doesn't.
Is it
Doesn't
Not a
wash
cem-
with me at all.
Not a cement boat or a rig somewhere.
Well, if this yacht's a rockin', don't bother knocking.
BP, you're the musician, mate. You must know about this.
I have no idea.
Yeah, the genre of our lead in, lead out number, is that a bit of
I was
yacht,
just going to
yacht
say, is
rock
that your rock?
or a rock pantheon?
I reckon it's yacht.
Is that your rock?
That's yacht rock. Back it on.
It's a bit bluesy.
No.
Bit bluesy. Who knows? I don't know, but I think it's an American thing, isn't it?
But what is it? I don't even know. What are you talking about?
It's like
No,
Vicey
but-
said. It's sort of soft, rocky thing, but is there
Oh, it's
always a nautical theme or not?
No.
Okay.
No. It's from what I've figured, I was kind of having a bit of a listen today and almost fell asleep. No, it's kind of just smooth, kind of rockish type, Jack Johnson-y
Okay.
type carb.
Bit of that sitting on a beach.
Does that
anchor
cross
or-
over with surf rock?
Oh, there you go.
Correct. Yeah, suck rock.
Yes.
Rock.
All right.
Alrighty, yacht rock
well,
it is.
So yacht rock. That's our new station.
Well,
No.
which actually has me thinking, and this
Barkarati
is
rock?
Barkarati
no, this is a task for you, Jordan.
Oh, no.
Barkarati Spotify playlist, if you wish, if you will.
Oh, BK playlist.
You do hold some pretty good playlists yourself, and I think we can all have a bit of input here, and I think that's how we're going to.
We're going to do a little radio.
We're going to do a Spotify playlist.
I don't know why we haven't thought of that before.
I like that you bring it up now. It's always good.
Yeah, that's it. I might. It's not going to be a high priority, but I'll get it done at some stage. Yeah.
Yep. No worries.
I've got a few projects on the go.
So actually,
done by next week
to the listeners, if they actually just want to send in any ideas, and let's stick with the theme a bit. Let's go with a bit of yacht rocking type thing. So, you can send in via Messenger, via Instagram, via cheers@barkarati.com, or direct to us personally. So, yeah.
Bit of AWOL Nation sail. Let's keep away from Rod Stewart. I am sailing.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'm into it.
18s, the Australian champs, 100th Australian champs have been decided.
Did anyone win?
Yeah, I think somebody won. Anyway, and as we said, you can watch it on YouTube. It's pretty good coverage. They do a great job. Congratulations.
They do a fantastic. I flicked over it today. I was just listening to a bit of yacht rock in the garage, doing a bit fixing the furler for the Mighty Hurligan, and
as you do on a Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, I went to the live feed, and I've got to say the commentators do a really good job.
Mm-hmm.
I liked the vibe, and what they were putting out there. So, go check it out. It was good. So, who won?
Sevy Jarvin, Matt Stenter, and Sammy Newton. So I think that's 8 now. Oh no, that's Nationals. So
Nationals. But JJ's in a few weeks.
JJ's in a few weeks. We'll get
that's on Andu, right?
Andu, ahead of you can watch it, but I think Smeg, Michael Coxon, Ricky Bridge, Zach Barnabas, and then Noak Sailing, Langman,
got in there.
Gone.
Ed Powers, and Josh Perebski. So it was pretty convincing win. The Andu boys smoked them.
Andu, not Yandu.
I said Andu.
Oh, did you? Okay,
Yeah.
sorry. You said Yandu.
Yeah. But that's all right, BP.
Where did Yandu come?
Don't know.
Always good. He's what a legend.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But anyway, good watching. I haven't watched the last 2 races yet, but because, got gardening to do. But important. The other thing that I thought was interesting this week is the Innovation Composites pictures of the frames laid down for their
1180. JPK 1180.
JPK, eh?
Yeah.
Jeez, BP.
Do we know any inside who actually the owner is?
We don't know who
particular
the owner
boat.
is, not at this stage. But this whole thing's been in the wings for a long time. JPK Pacific, I believe it's known, and has been pushing for them to build the JPKs down here. Obviously the 1180 is the larger of the boats and is actually a crewed fully crewed boat. So it's good to see that they're building in Australia.
Fantastic.
Mark's a fantastic guy, and he deserves to get this thing up off the ground. But I think, as far as I'm aware, JPK Pacific have been pushing this for a long time, and it's got to a point where looks like they may have got themselves an owner, and off they go. Yeah.
I'm looking. There's a picture of it. The frames up on Facebook. And Gary McCarthy, who I know quite well, just wrote quite simply.
Oh, Gaz.
Yeah.
Gazzo, yeah.
The new Hobart winner. It's already decided.
Is it?
Yeah. Well, based on global performance of the JPKs, they're
fantastic boat. Fantastic boat. There's no question.
Could go very, very well.
I think it'd be a good boat.
I do want to mention this week, boys. I'm quite passionate about surfing. I haven't been able to surf for 4 months, but because my stupid knee stuffed up from sailing so many times. We saw. I don't know. Did you guys watch the pipeline in Hawaii?
Yeah.
No,
I didn't watch it. I've seen the highlights.
Well, I watch everything.
You're talking about Kelly.
Kelly Slater
Yeah.
is now world number one, ranked number one. It's the first event of the year. Won pipeline, and he just turned 50 today. So I just want to say, like 6 days ago, he won. You got to acknowledge that is.
BP, there's hope for us yet, Jordan.
mate.
Your stuff.
I've got one more year to become world surfing champion.
You just got to acknowledge
Phenomenal.
the greatness of that.
Yeah.
Like there's at 50, and that was intense. That was intense. I loved every second of it. So I just want to mention big congratulations to Kelly Slater. I don't know if he's a good bloke
Listener
or not.
of the show.
Listener of the show, yeah.
Listener of the year.
Don't know if he's a good guy or not. I've never met the bloke.
Hey, Kelly just drops the line. There may or may not be a merchandise pack coming your way.
The other thing I want to mention, Denise, you sent some additions to the bingo. We'll publish those as well because they are quite good. Boys, I've had an idea.
Another one?
I've come up with an idea.
Okay. I'm looking forward to this.
Hang on. Let me get my notepad.
Hang on. I'm just gonna can I just get a beer? Hang on. Okay,
Right.
go for it.
Right. I've been watching a little bit of the Winter Olympics. I have no clue what's going on, right? I've worked out that you need snow or ice, but beyond that, I've got no clue, right? Anyway, there was an event being replayed on TV all day where the Australian lass got a silver where
The skeleton.
that's it.
In the luge.
She got
the skeleton.
She got a sled and ran really fast and then dove head first
Head down
and slid down the ice tube, right?
Yeah.
And won a silver medal. Like,
Fantastic, eh?
oh, brilliant. I mean, I got no idea how to make it work, but it just occurred to me, 2032 Olympics in Brisbane, where I live, don't we get to put a sport in?
A sport.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Could
this
you
is gonna
not?
be good.
Could you not go to a water park, Wet and Wild, right? We'll go to Wet and Wild. And you just extend the platform before you get into the slide. So you've got like a 50-metre run up and you just come in and we get all the bogans.
Do it in a water slide.
And just dive head first down the water slide and you get 4 runs, add the times up. It's
Well, there's a couple of measuring points. There's the air you get on the dips, and then how long you surf along the bottom at the pool.
Oh, coming out. Yes, the skim at the end.
You've got to have a really, really stiff body and surf along the thing because you've got to be doing.
And then you got to spin around and land on your feet at the end.
Tumble turn.
But I mean,
mate, that's sensational.
I know, but
that's a good new sport. That'll be fun.
It would be, wouldn't it? Like, why haven't we done that before? And the other thing is, like, would you still wear the traditional outfit? Like, would you still wear just a pair of
full skin?
No,
full body
I'm
skin.
wondering.
No, dick stickers for sure.
What about a really loose pair of boardies that sort of hang half down so your crack's out most of the way?
What, the girls?
No, like the blokes. The blokes always, every time you go on one of those things.
I'm ringing John Coates right now.
Coatesy.
President of AOC. saying Jordan's had an idea.
We're having the water slide gold medal.
Why aren't we doing this? Why is this not happening?
Are you allowed to use detergent?
Okay. Hello. You have a little necklace. Mate. Have a necklace with some detergent.
The drug cheating. Already it's happened. BP, you're a cheat. The mold 11 thing's
done it again.
Controversy. So there's going to be ways of cheating, with detergent to make you go faster.
Oh, mate. It's like just the giant, actually, like if we want to go full traditional Aussie style, it's actually a slip and slide.
Yes. Someone's front yard with a couple of
and it's 280 metres, slip and slide.
And a barbecue.
And
your mum and dad and the kids.
You know what would make it really good, though? It's like...
You got to swing. You got to do a few laps around the hills hoist. You get a slingshot effect.
Coming in...
We would nail it, wouldn't we?
If we put this in the Olympics, right, the Aussies would be the favourite. And so you get all these countries...
Absolutely.
All these countries...
Balancing your thongs.
That's right. All these countries turned up in the high-tech gear and you get some Aussie guy just peel his flannel off, kick his thongs off...
Dad bod.
Have his last bite of his sausage sanger...
Just been a bunnos.
It's just been a bunnos for the sausage sizzle. It's just still eating. He's got the white bread still stuck in the teeth, bit of sauce on his chin, and he's just going, here we go. Watch this, lads.
Slipped over on a piece of onion on the way.
The onion's left.
Maybe you could use the onion.
Apologies to our overseas listeners.
No one understands a word of what we just said.
Rightio. Hey, Jordan. All right.
It's a great idea, though,
You've had some bloody good ideas.
Oh, you have.
And it just reminded me. Just take a piece of A4 paper, squeeze it together at the end.
Yeah.
That's your boat, right?
Yeah.
During the week, homeschooling over here, Toby had a bit of a project. He needed to build a boat and see how many coins it could hold.
Oh, wow.
So I've peeled off a piece of alfoil.
Oh, no, here we go.
The size of an A4 piece of paper. Just squeeze the end together.
Yeah.
And I've got to tell you, it's a shitter. She sinks.
What's a boat made out of steel, effectively?
I was just going to say, I was thinking Toby
without the transom. No. So
the problem would have been no transom.
Mark II, we put the transom on it. Mate, 131 coins.
Oh, nice.
What,
Top
dollar
class.
coins? Dollar coins?
No, it was all the euros I got left. So one thing was I dragged a bloody Ziploc full of euros out. So I know I've got about 300 euros worth of coins, which is kind of good.
Yeah.
But yeah, 131 coins straight to the top of the class, Toby.
Well done, Toby.
Did Toby tell the teacher that his dad is a boat builder, a professional boat builder by trade?
Oh, no. I've got lawnmowing around.
Very good. Well done. Well done, Toby Bice.
I love it.
All right. Well, we solved a few world problems today again.
Yeah, no, it's on fire. Cool.
Yeah. So Brisbane Games, something to look forward to.
Yeah, it's we got to get Katie.
Are we in training now for that, Jay?
I think we'll have a.
I've got the dad bod down.
Don't you worry
sausages.
about that.
I know where to get sausages.
Yeah,
we're good.
Well, maybe one day we'll just announce bar karate training session at Wet n Wild or one of those places after a major regatta, and just tell everyone to turn up, and we'll pick the Australian team.
Oh, easy. I'm going to start working.
We'll write the rules as we're going as well, like any good Aussie sport.
I'm going to start working on the cheating format. Beauty. I like the idea of a detergent necklace. What do you pull the ripcord as you know?
Slow release.
Yeah, Bicey, we'll get BP all fired up, get him fired up. He's got his detergent necklace. He's ready. He's lathered up, and he'll go running full speed, and we'll just turn the tap off as he's going. Dry fiberglass the whole way.
That'd be funny.
Oh, beauty.
Yeah, righto. Let's hold it there. This is just ridiculous.
But anyway, that's what we're here for, ideas. That's it. I think we're done.
Yeah, we're done.
Beauty. Another day in paradise.
Beauty, boys.
Absolutely.
Break out the guitar. When are you back to Oz, BP?
Flying home Tuesday night, Indo time, into Sydney Wednesday morning, and then off to tennis with the kids. So looking forward to it.
Spanish and tennis, eh? I love it.
Oh, rapping it, though.
Oh,
What a hero.
Spanish dig that tennis. It's like
Oh,
that.
I love it.
I wonder what happens
What
when
else? What else do you do in Mallorca?
drinking.
No question.
Well, I definitely didn't play tennis. I'll tell you that.
I can say I didn't get one racket in my hand.
Jumped the net a couple of times though.
Everyone.
See you later.